Last week I competed in a men's physique competition in the INBF, which is a natural federation, so they do a polygraph test and urine test and all that stuff. And I wanted to share a little bit about my experience here in case it's helpful, and also what I learned about doing it in case you might consider doing it yourself. So this is actually my second time competing in men's physique. The first time was about 5 years ago in 2017, but this time around I felt a lot more prepared. And this was mainly something I wanted to just do for myself, not necessarily to win or to become a professional bodybuilder or anything like that, but more so to get out of my comfort zone, to challenge myself, to get in the best possible shape that I could, and ultimately just focus on building a better physique than I did back in 2017 when I did my first show. And a main driver in me wanting to do this as well was the benefit I would gain or the experience I would gain as far as being a coach myself. The first time around in 2017, I learned so much about nutrition, about training, about accountability, and how to actually coach somebody to see the best possible physical results. And just from the experience of doing a competition prep and the experience of going through a show, I became an infinitely better coach to my own clients. And I was very confident that this time around, going through prep again, doing it even better, and being 5 years older and 5 years more knowledgeable, that there was no doubt in my mind I was going to have the same experience as far as probably becoming a better coach in some way or another by going through this competition prep. And I truly do believe now that any coach who has competed themselves is at a significant advantage to better help their own clients improve their physique and look their absolute best. Because for me, a lot of the clients that I work with have physique and aesthetic-based goals. They're not competitors themselves. They're just normal guys who, work a full-time job, have, a family life, a social life, and all that stuff. But their goals are based around looking their absolute best physically. Of course, there are some clients who have other goals as well and are more performance-based goals. They want to get faster, stronger. They want to compete in marathons or Tough Mudders and that type of stuff. But pretty much all my clients want to either lose body fat or build muscle or just look better in the mirror and have more confidence in themselves. So I found that my experience going through this process, and the more times I do it, that I'll be able to give even more value to my own clients. And I'll learn a few things here and there throughout each contest prep that I can pass along to them. So when I decided to compete early on in 2022, really around the new year, I was already working with my coach, Justin Williams, at the time. He was working with me for about a year prior to that to build more muscle and doing a lean bulking phase. And we knew that I was going to transition to contest prep with the thoughts of competing in either April, May, or June. And I'm a little biased, but I highly recommend everybody work with a coach, whether you want to compete or whether you just want to make sure fitness is a main priority in your life and that you're doing the best you can with your fitness and your health. Having a coach nowadays, it's not like 10 years ago where you needed to have a personal trainer and pay them $150 an hour. Having an online coach is extremely affordable. You learn a whole lot by working with one if you're working with the right coach, and the upside you can gain learning about nutrition, learning about training, having that accountability, and having someone that's in your corner to make sure that you're just doing the right things and you've taken out all the guesswork in your nutrition and your training, and you just have to follow the program, follow the simple directions. It's so incredibly valuable, and that's why I still work with him as my coach and pay him every single month, because even though I know what to do, even though I have all the knowledge, I've been working as a trainer for 10 years, having that accountability, having him save me the time of designing my own program, designing my own nutrition, thinking about what changes to make, he just tells me exactly what to do, and I just save the time, save the energy, save the effort, save the research on my own, and just follow along. But especially if you want to compete, I highly recommend working with a coach who's experienced competing. And that's why I decided to work with Justin, because me and him have very similar ideologies and very similar philosophies around training and nutrition. The difference was he has more experience in the competition world, right? He's competed many, many times. He's become an IFBB pro, which is the top federation, right? And I had only competed once before. So I wanted to work with a coach like him who had experience in that area that I was looking for. So this competition prep lasted about 22 weeks. From the time we started the fat loss phase to the day that I competed, it was about a 22-week prep. And I'll put the progress photos up here. As you can see, the starting photos, I was around 160 pounds or so. Still relatively lean, still had some visible abs there, right? And was probably, I don't know, around 15 to 18% body fat. But obviously in the after photos, when I'm, ready to step on stage, I'm noticeably leaner, probably under 10% body fat, much more visible and defined abs, much more definition and defined upper body in general. And on show day, I turned out to be around 144.2 pounds. So I ended up losing between 15 and 16 pounds for this prep, which is just under a pound per week throughout the course of the 22-week prep. And for me, that's really the lightest I've been as an adult. I probably weighed that amount back in high school, but obviously right now, my body composition is way better. I've got way more muscle mass, body fat percentage is a lot lower, and that was really the range that we wanted me to step on stage. Me and Justin wanted me to step on stage. He told me between 142 and 144, so this is right kind of at the top of that range. And really the goal of this competition prep was to drop every little additional excess pound of body fat while retaining muscle mass the entire time. We didn't want to lose any muscle mass at all if possible. So that entailed keeping protein relatively high and not eating overly aggressively. Of course, you have to be very diligent and consistent and relatively strict with your eating for a contest prep like this, but the lowest amount of food I was eating was around 2,000 calories, right? So a lot of people try to eat way lower than that just to lose some weight, but when it comes to physique and when it comes to looking, really shredded and ripped, you don't want to be eating 1,000 calories, 1,200 calories if you're an adult male who's working out 5 or 6 times a week. So 2,000 calories was the absolute lowest I even touched during this prep. And when we started around February, I was coming out of that lean bulking phase and I was eating around 3,500 calories. So we gradually reduced the food over the course of the last 5 months. And I've got to be honest, the majority of the prep was not insanely demanding or challenging in a way that many people might expect. It was almost like a normal fat loss phase where I'm doing a bit of extra cardio and I'm being really diligent and consistent with my nutrition. So I was very much trying to limit eating meals out or having to estimate the macros of my meals more than once per week. So for the majority of this prep, I was eating out only once per week. And generally that one time was eating out at a place that I didn't even have to estimate the macros, which was usually a place like Chipotle, where they have the nutrition calculator online. But it really wasn't until a month before the show that I really felt it to get more of a struggle. And I really felt that I was challenged and getting out of my comfort zone big time. And that's because my cardio ended up piling up. I ended up doing about 30 minutes of cardio 5 times a week after my workouts. I was strength training about 5 to 6 times a week. And in that last month was also when I was eating the lowest amount of food, about 2,000 calories. So not only was my activity up super high and I was burning a lot of calories, but my food was at the lowest point. So that led to feeling really tired. That led to being very moody, right? Having very short patience and having mood swings. And it obviously led to being hungrier than I would prefer to be. It wasn't like I was starving or anything like that. And to be honest, it wasn't even at the point where I was picking at snacks and picking things to eat throughout the day and then not tracking it, right? If you notice that you're doing that, if you're hungry to the point where you can't control that and you're picking snacks throughout the day or at night and then not tracking it, that's an indication that there's an issue there, right? You either need to add in a refeed day or you're just eating too low calories daily in general, right? So I didn't even get to that point, but I got to the point where I was feeling noticeably hungry at multiple points throughout every day. Something else that happens that's sort of a negative effect is your workouts diminish, right? The quality of your workouts are not as good. You don't have as much energy. You don't have as much fuel in you. You're running on, lower amounts of food, as I said, and your workouts suffer, right? I had to move down in weight in almost all of my exercises for that last month. I felt weak. I felt like I couldn't make it through the whole workout as I usually was able to. And even just doing my cardio, which was just walking at a normal, casual pace on an incline treadmill, that became very hard as well. And again, none of this was like suffering by any means, right? Some people hear this and think, wow, that's so terrible. It's really not, right? It was just pushing myself really to the edge of what I was able to handle and really pushing right above my comfort zone. But in case you're considering competing yourself in whatever category, men's physique, bodybuilding, bikini, anything like that, there's a few things that I learned or was reminded of this time going through this men's physique show and really doing it better than I did the first time. The first thing that I learned is that it's really you versus you. It's very easy to get caught up in the idea of wanting to do a show with the intent of winning, right? And if you don't win, it's a failure. Or doing any sort of competition, we're taught that you're supposed to want to win the whole time. But you can't really go in with that mindset, especially if you're a new competitor, because everyone's still at a different chapter in their fitness journey. Like, for example, there was one guy there who had lost 125 pounds, which is amazing, and he was doing it to just show that, he can get in great shape and he can step on stage and he can look amazing. But someone who's lost 125 pounds is going to be in a different situation than someone like myself who's never even been 20 pounds overweight, right? It's a different journey and it's a different situation. There were people competing who were 40 and 50 years old. And, I'm 29 years old. So there's differences in the ages and there's differences in just what chapter of fitness you're at. Because I've been working out and strength training and tracking my macros for like 10 years now. There's some people who were just in their first 2 or 3 years doing that. Or there are some people who have been doing it for longer than I was. So if you get caught up in the idea of comparing your physique and your outcome with someone else's, that's where kind of negative mindset and negative feelings start to creep in there. And you've got to go in with the mindset of knowing that it's just you versus you. And I said before that my main goal was to step on stage and just have a better physique than I did 5 years ago when I stepped on stage. And that will continue to be my mindset. If I compete again in the future, next year, the year after, anytime, whenever I compete, my goal will be simply to try to build a better physique and a better body than I did this time around and just continue to improve where I'm currently at. The second thing that I learned, which was amazing, is that this community of competitors is incredibly supportive. This is a great way to meet new friends, meet new connections, and network with other people who are into the sort of stuff that you're into. And it takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to basically, wear minimal clothing, get a ridiculous tan, and step on stage in front of like 100 people or several hundred people and be judged by a panel of judges. That takes a lot of bravery and courage to do that. And there's a mutual respect that all the competitors have for one another, that we're getting out of our comfort zone to do this. And every single person I met was super friendly, super outgoing, supportive of one another. Backstage, where all the competitors were in our men's physique show, we were all sharing ideas. We were sharing, rice cakes, sharing food, sharing resistance bands. I gave one of the other guys a resistance band because he didn't bring any, so he had no way to sort of get a pump before the show. And you'd think, well, these are technically your competition. Wouldn't you not want to help them do their best? But that's not the mindset at all. It's all about helping each other, supporting each other, and all of us looking the best that we can when we step on stage. The third thing that I learned is that the physique that you build when you step on stage to compete in a show is not something that's sustainable, and it's very easy to get caught up in wanting to look like that all the time, right? Wanting to always be shredded to the bone and be sub 10% body fat all the time. But the truth is, that's not realistic, and your quality of life is going to suffer if you try to maintain that. Your hormones are going to be all out of whack. Your sex drive is going to be little to none. You're not going to be able to go out to eat with your significant other or your friends nearly as much. You're not going to be able to enjoy yourself, and you're probably going to build a really poor relationship with food. And like I said before, you're probably going to be super tired all the time, eating much lower amounts of food and calories than really is necessary. It's just not a good quality of life, and it's not realistic to maintain that type of physique year-round. So what I learned was the goal should not be to be shredded all the time, but it should be to have life balance while staying in really good shape that you're happy with, while also being within striking distance of getting shredded like you would stepping on stage within a short amount of time. And what I mean by that, I'm not sure if I'm articulating it right, but the main goal should be to know in your head you can get shredded if you want to be, or for a vacation, or for a show, or for some sort of event that you want to look absolutely shredded for, but not actually be shredded 100% of the time. But you know in your head that if you just take 3 months or 4 months and go hard at these few things that you know are going to yield results, that you can get to that point, and knowing that in the back of your head, but actually living a more high-quality, flexible, balanced lifestyle with your food and with your nutrition and your training. So what that might look like is, instead of being at 8% body fat year-round or 7% body fat year-round, you're actually hanging around 12% or 13% body fat year-round, where you can eat 2,500 calories or 2,600 calories and still look better than the majority of humans on Earth, right? Still be happy with the way you look, but not being absolutely shredded to the bone at all times. And that's honestly where I see myself being physique-wise going forward when I'm not planning to compete in another men's physique show, is having a more balanced approach, eating a little bit more food, still staying lean, still staying very defined in the, 10 to 15% body fat range, but knowing in my head, hey, if I really want to get shredded for a photo shoot or a vacation or something like that, just give me 3 months and I know for a fact that I can do it. And overall, I wasn't sure what to expect in this competition. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it and be super uncomfortable, super nervous, and, just not have a good experience. But it was quite the opposite. I had a great experience. I met all these great people. Morgan was there and her mom was there. They were supporting me. And because I was more prepared, I, was in a great physique. I practiced posing and I felt confident on stage with my posing, and I knew that I was doing the right poses and I was in the right positions, and that makes it a better experience when you're doing it better. So I actually felt quite uplifted from the experience, quite confident from the experience, and I left with the thoughts of wanting to do more, possibly looking for another show or two to do in the next month or so before I return back to a muscle building phase or a more flexible phase to finish out the final 6 months of 2022. So I'm still considering that, and I'm still looking to see if there's any shows that might make sense for me now while I'm only a week removed from this first show. And I also placed second, which I'm very happy about. Like I said, I went in with no expectations at all. I didn't know if I was going to have a chance to win the show or if I was going to literally come in dead last and, everyone on stage was going to be way bigger and way better than I was. So the idea that I actually did have a shot to win and that I came in just second place kind of brought that competitiveness out of me even more and sort of left me with the feeling of wanting to go in with more of a mindset of seeing if I could win rather than only doing it for myself as a challenge. But anyway, I hope me sharing this with you was somewhat helpful or you got some insight from it at all. If you're looking to work with a coach yourself, whether it's for competing or whether it's just to get in great shape and maintain your current lifestyle and have balance and live a good quality of life, you can apply for my Modern Man coaching program down below if you think that I might be a good fit for you as far as working with you as your coach. We've had many guys over the last few years see pretty insane body transformations. Guys who are working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Guys who have a lot going on in their life who are still able to blend proper fitness and nutrition into their lifestyle with the proper accountability and guidance to get in just incredible shape. Of all different ages as well. Guys in their 30s, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s. So you can check that out down below if you're interested, but otherwise, I will see you on the next video.